All right, everyone, welcome back to another pod class, as we like to call it in the Energy Matters community. And today we're going to be talking about the pain body.
Working with the pain body. Such a fun
that's
topic.
that's right. I actually just taught a class on this topic for my monthly healing group. And so we went pretty deep into it. And I'm excited to look at it with you from more of an energy perspective, looking at energy, intuitive reading, healing work perspective, and see how you work with it as a teacher and with yourself. So that'll be interesting. Before we
I
jump
avo
in,
I avoid
oh,
it at all costs. That's how.
you're a pain avoider. Great. All right.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, we got those. We've got some of
Wait, we
those.
lost you. Your audio.
Oh, no, I'm here. No, one second. One second. Am I
There
gone?
you're back. Now you're back.
My audio went for no reason. That's what pain does. Disappear. It wants you to run. So as we get started, just real quick, if you're watching or listening to this through the podcast on Spotify or iTunes or YouTube, we save the meditation part for those who are on Zoom with us today. And then if you're just in our community on our email list, we send you the whole thing where you could do the meditation. So at the end today, we'll do a meditation with the pain body. And that's my announcement. So, one other announcement before we jump into the topic, which is me and you are going to start teaching a monthly class on learning to see energy starting this month.
Yeah.
For at least, we're going to do month to month, probably go for at least a year and just see. It's called Learning to See Energy. Starts April 22nd. So I'm excited. And that is our light version of doing intuitive training. We've been getting a lot of questions on when we're going to do the next one, likely next year. I always joke that we need a couple of years off in between because we're
To
getting old
recuperate.
to recover. So in the meantime, if you want to do some more energy work, we'll be teaching that class every month starting April 22nd. It's a 90-minute class. Okay, let's jump in. So the pain body. First of all, maybe we can start, Cody, by defining what we see as the pain body and how we experience it and see it as teachers. And then we could also talk about the different kinds of pain bodies. And this is a term that Eckhart Tolle coined in The Power of Now. So, not taking any credit, I'll just take credit for my own pain, my own
Yeah.
pain body. Yeah,
Right. It's a great term. I mean, I think it's
it
a great
is.
way to encapsulate the notion of pain because in all of our energy work that we practice and teach, we do talk about dealing with energy and psychic pain and how important that is to our growth and healing. And so I love this concept because it encapsulates kind of the bigger notion of it and and the effect that it has where it can kind of take us over when we get
Yeah,
stimulated or lit up in the
exactly.
pain body. Yeah.
Did my audio go out? No, I'm still good.
No,
Okay.
you're good.
Uh, and the way Eckhart would describe it, and I would agree, is it's an energy field that is sometimes unconscious or dormant, and sometimes it bubbles to the surface and becomes activated. So somebody could have a simmering pain body. It's kind of down there. They look all happy and go lucky and everything is fine. And then something triggers it. Like maybe there's a pain body around rejection and they have a perceived experience of rejection and it gets triggered. That could lead to grief. It could lead to anger, frustration, confusion. Maybe they just go totally unconscious in some way and react to a situation instead of respond in a conscious way. And so pain body is some form of negativity that's kind of clustered into an energy field that could be dormant or active. Some people it is they keep them real down deep and then they explode like volcanoes. Other people they kind of come and go quickly and maybe they just peck at you a little bit, right? And everything in between, really big deep pain bodies that hurt more, might have more explosive awakenings, and what smaller ones They could be more subtle. They could be manipulative. They don't all have to be really big and aggressive. So their pain bodies come in many different shapes and sizes and forms. And one of the ways you know you've got one activated is you cannot control yourself or your feelings often. Usually, as meditators, we want to learn how to respond instead of react. And meditation is creating that pause, that gap, so you don't react and you're still and then you respond. But if you lose yourself and you're just so upset in some way, shape, or form, you're probably in a pain body that's activated at the moment. And so I don't I would ask you, Cody, but when I teach, we do a lot of work around the pain body, how to become aware of it, how to realize it when it becomes active, and then how to heal it so it doesn't take over and maneuver your life into a direction you don't want it to go in. Uh, I was going to ask you, when you work with it kind of energetically as an intuitive and as an energy healer teacher, how do you see it?
Boy, that's a good question because it like you described how there's these many different forms that it might take. It can look different in different settings and different people. I think one of the things as we start to talk about the pain body and this notion of it being dormant or active in this healing energy work, uh, just because it's dormant doesn't mean it's not affecting us. In fact, we often expend a lot of energy just trying to keep it dormant. And as we heal ourselves, in a sense, if we think of it as an energetic force, as we de-energize that force, as we become more conscious or awakened to energy, and we can start to take the charge out of the pain body, the effect that it has while it's dormant even becomes less. And then certainly the effect, even when it's active, becomes less. And we start to reclaim our energy that otherwise maybe is managing the pain body. We get all that creative force and life force back. So healing it puts us in a place where we become more energized and have more energy. I think that the fact that it's such an energy drain sometimes gets lost. It kind of gets talked about in the sense of, oh, it's activated, and that's where the effect is happening when it's activated. But to me, someone that has a heavy pain body, the effect of managing that takes up so much of our creative energy force that it's really important to start to come to awareness of this part of ourselves and learn some tools to de-energize it or heal ourselves. So
It'll
one of the
manifest
things,
for
like
you
as
too.
a what's
Sorry.
that?
It'll actually start to manifest for you. So it'll attract for itself instead of
Right.
the things you
Yes.
really want. It'll attract somebody else with a pain body that's similar
Right.
or a
And that happens
situation
when it's
trigger.
dormant. Yes. Right.
Yeah.
So when it's dormant, it will still be bringing things into your field that, in a sense, feed the pain body or validate it. And as you learn to de-energize it, then that happens less and less, for sure.
And,
One of the things
yeah.
when we work with it, you were asking, like, how do I see it? Um, One of the things when we go to work with it, it's not that we try to activate it to work on it. It's that we get into a place of a greater awareness and then notice where it might reside and try to work to alleviate some of the charge on it from a more neutral place. And, in that space of meditation where you do have that gap, there can be a sense of observing awareness or neutrality, and you get more space of choice. I think one of the things with the pain body when it gets activated is you're not really in a place of making conscious choices. You're in a place of reacting. And very often it's very deep. It's like it can feel like the fight or flight or survival reaction. The body's experiencing it and the sympathetic nervous system gets activated and it's very much in that fight or flight vibration. And meditating
Yeah.
brings us out of that into a place where we suddenly have space from those reactive parts, and that's where we can heal ourselves.
Or even we might freeze. Some folks just freeze up.
Well,
They don't run
yes,
or fight.
uh, on that point, I often talk about this because it's often talked about as fight or flight, which, when things are just talked about in a very low resolution sense in the world, gets to the simplest form, but it's actually fight, flight, freeze, or fawn is the one I've heard that covers all the different ways we might react out of survival. So we either fight what's in front of us, we flee, we may freeze, or we try to um, heal it. Let's say we try to befriend it, and so that it's not a threat. Those are the four actual deeper survival reactions or common ones that I've run across. Yeah.
Mm, you fawn over it. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. When I don't know about you, when I look at a pain body, so if my eyes are closed and I'm meditating on myself or doing some kind of energy work, I'll see it in different ways. But I would love for us to describe some of the ways someone might be able to actually see their pain body when they're meditating, so they can distinguish between, is this a pain body? Is this just a thought? Is this a feeling? So, one of the ways I'll see a pain body is actually like a sometimes like a glob, like a dark glob.
That's what I
Like it
see
might be,
too. Yeah.
yeah, could be gray, could be black, could be red. Um, I don't think the color necessarily means one specific thing. So I wouldn't
Yeah.
get stuck on that. A lot of people get stuck on, interpret the color. We don't do that as teachers. It's just about the energy that the color is holding. And so when I look at it and if I see a glob, how dense is it? How heavy? Is it a massive one or is it a smaller one? Is it a pebble or is it a boulder or something in
Right.
between? I remember it's kind of a wild story. I was doing a session for someone we both know. I won't mention them. And it was something along the lines of like, wow, your grandfather, it was the person's grandfather had a lot of pain. And I said, man, that is one of the biggest pain bodies I've ever seen. I was doing an energy reading session. I was like, that pain body is so big, it looks like it would cause cancer. And I hate to say that, but that's what I see. And he could have it. We'd been working together for many years. It was okay to say that to this person. It was another teacher. And he said, that's interesting you would say that because my grandfather was in enormous emotional pain. He got cancer and he died of it. And I always, he always registered that as it was caused by all of that stuck emotion and pain that he had had. And so I bring that up just because experientially, when I was looking at it, it looked like something that was so big it would barely fit on the screen of my mind's eye. I had to almost like zoom out, when you zoom out on a map. Well, like
Hmm.
what state is this city in? I had to keep zooming out. This thing was that big, and it had layers to it. Sometimes a pain body could get so big and complex it creates an ego and it like a sense of self of its own. Have you ever
Hmm.
seen that where somebody becomes their pain body or they start to totally identify with it?
Yeah, definitely. And in that case, even when it's dormant, they're still in the force of it, right? So there's the activated part where maybe it's being externalized, but in the dormant phase, it's still internally the primary thing they perhaps experience. But you bring up an interesting point when you talk about that you were looking at this other person because perhaps some of his grandfather's pain body was in him, like in this notion of us taking on and healing energies. We could take on the energy of someone else's pain body. And so we have our own, but then we have those energies we're carrying that aren't really our energies, but are come a part of that pain body. Um,
Yeah,
I think one
I
of the
did.
things
Yeah,
too that stands out, pardon me, but just in what you had just said about the size of it, whether it's small or big, when it's activated, it doesn't matter because what being activated really means is it has taken over. So whether it's the size of a pebble or a boulder, when it's activated, it is takes over. I think that size difference, though, makes a big difference when it's dormant. It's because how much energy am I having to expend to manage it when it's dormant? And if it's the bigger it is, the more of an energy drain it is on my energy.
I also think of it as like gravity. So, we have a center of gravity as a being, each of us, and we do have kind of a world that revolves around us. We call it our world. We think the world revolves around us. It gives us that illusion.
Right.
But sometimes the pain body becomes so big, it begins to have its own force of gravity. And then it almost like it can take over someone's life. It almost becomes comparable to their center of gravity. And
Yes.
I've seen that happen where like it is the pain body is almost dragging the person around, and they're just kind of like ball and chain. It's like, all right, pain, we're gonna go here. Pain body wants to
Yeah.
go here. And
Yeah.
and then if you over identify with it, the filters that get created, the way you see the world can really shift your life. So everything, perhaps a pain body might say, everyone is against me. Everywhere I go, everyone is against me, or the world is unfair. Doesn't matter what direction I turn, the world is unfair. And it's just because you're wearing that lens from that pain body, right?
Yeah.
Or I need to fight. I need to fight for justice every moment of every day. Everywhere I go is injustice. I need to fight. And so the pain body will give you an identity over time when it has too much of that gravity. And then it starts to really take over. I've seen that happen. It's not
Hmm.
fun. Is everyone enjoying this podcast episode?
So far. Yeah. Yeah, it will take, I mean, and that notion, nothing ever works out for me is another one that comes to mind when you mention a couple of them. It is the ultimate Eeyore, the pain body. And maybe Eeyore is the expression of a pain body. I guess
From
on that notion
yeah,
of how big or little it is, um, that the bigger it is, the more apt it is to get easily triggered, I would say, because there's more avenues of things that would trigger it, the more the kind of bigger it is. So
that's
yeah.
true. Somebody asked how do you identify the cause of the pain body? That's a great question. I think that might not be the way to initially approach it, though. That is kind of the more a psychology approach or sometimes an analytical approach. Like if I can identify what caused it, then I will have gotten through it. And often that is an illusion because I know people who've identified the cause of their pain body, and actually I started identifying more with it because now they had more
Right.
knowledge but shifted no energy, and then become incredibly annoying people because their whole identity becomes the origin story of the pain body. Have you experienced
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And I mean, in a very general sense, the cause is anything that created psychic pain in us can get added to our pain body. So we don't have to identify it in the sense of, oh, yeah, it becomes part of my origin story and that's who I am. We recognize that it is just an expression or it is the reflection of psychic pain that we have experienced over a lifetime, conglomerating together. Um,
like a snowball.
yeah, it does grow if we don't find a relationship to where we can with it, to where we're releasing it or actively kind of working to process through that energy. Because, like you say, it attracts it
Yeah.
energies of that vibration.
And obviously, a traumatic experience will cause a pain body, right? A
Sure.
varying degrees of trauma. Will anything that leaves a lasting dent in you from an experience, invalidation, rejection, criticism, abuse, right? Anything that causes pain that you don't fully process that has an energetic residue, that energetic residue might start off very intense or might start off really small and light, and then like a snowball pick up steam over time. So, can you eventually get to the ultimate cause of a pain body and maybe like pop it like a bubble? Yeah, I have seen that happen. But maybe we could describe a little bit of what that process, the way we might do it, doing this work looks like. That I think that would be really, because someone's saying I want to experience it. That would be really useful. And so, what not to do is to overanalyze it and try to figure it out and control it, right? And if you're someone that's very smart, intellectual, like you've got it together, sometimes that could be counterproductive because you're like, all right, if I just understand it enough, I'll have worked through it. And that is the illusion. So instead, we want to come at it like a little bit more intuitively. So, for example, with a pain body, and we'll do this in meditation, but you might, as we are saying, see it. So, all right, is it a cloud? Is it a ball of gook? Is it just a dark spot? Is it a bunch of little red dots? How do you see it and experience it? Like, where is it in your energy field or in your body, in your space, so you can identify kind of where it is and the texture of it. So sometimes I think of it like when you feel when I used to live in India, uh, you'd go to these places, they sell all these different textiles, and you could feel them all, the silk, all the different silks and stuff, and so you can kind of almost brush your energetic hand on it and feel the texture of it. Like, is it spiky, and is it like a rough rug? Is it really dense and heavy? You can get a sense of a pain body, like how big and deep is this? And the more you can describe it as like a 5, 6, 7-year-old, the better. That when a student to me starts describing it that way, I know they're actually interacting with the energy. When a student starts telling me a very sophisticated story, that's when I know they're not actually interacting with the energy. So if they say, well, this pain body is from when I was 7, my mother said this and this happened and I felt that, and they give me the story, that means they're not actually in it. When you're in it, it's vague. You're touching it, you're sensing it, you're seeing it, you're trying to explain it as you're feeling and seeing your way through it. And for me, that's a good place for a lot of people to start. You should be in the unknown, kind of almost trying to see in the dark. And the energy work we do is learning how to turn the lights on and learning how to see clearly. So not just feel, which is the pain body will seduce you with feeling. You might just feel it and then go, ugh, right? And lose yourself. So we learn how to see, get neutral, and how to see it. And maybe Cody, you could talk a little bit about what that looks like, how you do that.
Yeah, and that's something that we get into that place of seeing through meditation. And I think that, uh, like you were saying, about how to work with the pain body, I think the other part is that we don't want to over-identify with it. When we create a story, we're creating an identity. So that, I think you covered that. We also really don't necessarily want to pursue it. I think it's more helpful to, through energy awareness and meditation, get into a place of kind of grounded, centered awareness within ourselves so that we can notice it when it starts to arise and not be absorbed into it, not be taken over by it. And that's the vantage point from where we can then see it and then start to actually process it and release it. And it will have all those text would I can't think of the word, like textorial components. When you feel it, it has this texture and a feeling, and you can really get acquainted with the vibration of the energy through that. There will also be a vibration to it. So some people's pain body may have a vibration that's fearful or that's angry or that's grief stricken. And so you can, as you're getting a feel for the texture and where it is and what it looks like, you also start to get awareness of the vibration of it. I mean, ultimately it's pain, but that comes in many different forms. And certainly our how it affects us comes in very different forms. And so we start to get more awareness of the energetics of it, not the story of it. In fact, the
Yeah.
story is it's kind of funny because in some ways, instead of processing it, what we often did was create a story about it. And to release the pain body, we often have to release the story because that story holds an identity. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when we do energy work around this, the story tends to come in what we call pictures, like mental images, and we learn how to find and release those. That's kind of part of learning to see energy and intuitive training is we learn how to find those pictures and release them. So what that's usually what keeps people from seeing clearly mostly is pain. Like when a lot of people close their eyes and they want to learn how to see energy, what they're getting is noise and pain. And so they're like, I can't see anything. This is too difficult. I don't like it. But actually, it's really a call to adventure, to a spiritual adventure, which is if you can't see past the noise or hear past the noise, or see your answers clearly, that means something's wrong, right? Your abilities are in atrophy, and there's too much going on here. Like you want to cut through that jungle and get to the other side. And when you do, that's when this work becomes really fun. Most people never get past the pain and the noise because it's hard. And so they're like, I'm just going to avoid it, override it, deal with it, identify with it. But the goods on the other side are really amazing, learning to see energy in all its forms and not just pain. But usually most people have to start with pain because that's what's in front of them. All the invalidation, all the fear and anxiety, everything we've got as human beings that we're, that we absorb over time. And then life becomes less and less fun, right? Kids have the most fun, adults the least. It just,
Right.
it is kind of like going into back into a childlike state. There's a presence, there's a playfulness, there's imagination, there's vision, there's color. So we do often refer to it as kind of spiritual kindergarten. Being in that energy is can be very helpful. Um,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
that's
I
what I
like
always enjoyed
your,
the most.
yeah. And I like your framing that it's an adventure. I like, I look at it like an opportunity for healing, an opportunity for uh, an insight or greater awareness. Um, it doesn't work really well if we make it's a problem we have to solve, which is often the approach that the mind will take is, oh, this thing's a problem I have to solve. It, if we think of like Eckhart, who originated it, he kind of talks about it as your awakening comes through going through the pain body, not getting rid of it necessarily. Like when the pain body arises, that's the opportunity to awaken. And there's some real truth in that.
Absolutely. And he was on the verge of suicide, right? So
Right.
we would, the way we would frame it was he hit a really big pain body. He,
Right.
he, uh, he faced probably his biggest pain body, which wanted it, so, I've shared this before. I had a teacher that would say he drew a line on the board in college and he said, everyone's oscillating between suicide and enlightenment, between totally not wanting to be here, which is suicide, versus totally accepting being here in this moment, which would be enlightenment. And so we swing on that. And maybe perhaps Eckhart faced that ultimate pain around not wanting to be here and the identity that it created and worked through it and realized the illusion of it. He would also say it was like a voice in his head. So the
Hmm.
pain body could take the form of a voice. It could take the form of thoughts, images, feelings. It will take many, many different forms. One pain body can take all the forms. Anywhere you turn, it'll show up. Hey there. and
Yeah. Yeah. You can
it,
have physical
yeah,
feeling, sensation, all
yeah.
the way to thought. Yeah.
And if you do nothing
And
about
real
it,
physical,
it'll
like pain.
manifest.
Yeah. Like
Yes.
real physical pain in your body that is just the manifestation of the pain body. Yeah.
Yeah, and Stefan was saying he's feeling that oscillation between suicide and enlightenment. So think of it, those are very charged words. Let's just put it I don't want to be here. I can fully accept being here. And the acceptance in being here doesn't mean there's no pain. The acceptance in being here is not resisting all of the pain. That's
Right.
how Eckhart describes getting through it. That's the surrender to it and the working through it. It's the resistance to pain that pushes us to not wanting to be here. I don't want to be here because it's too painful. When there's an assumption, there's something there, which is I don't like pain, right? There's an assumed thing underneath, which is I don't like pain because there's pain. I don't want to be here. A good meditator kind of flips that and goes, there's pain, which means there's opportunity for growth, which means I want to be here. That's why I was born, to work through this
Yeah.
pain. This is the whole point. So you got a ticket to the show. You get to decide if you want to be in it or not. But that is the whole invitation. So if you're struggling with a lot of pain and that I don't want to be here, that's called resistance. Then can you sit and meditate with that resistance and work through that level of resistance? That doesn't mean we don't sometimes need support. A lot of people need support, but still,
Sure.
even with support, the support is helping you work through the resistance. So, for example, if there's a trauma that caused a pain body, and every time you think about it, you're like, I cannot accept that past moment and the pain that it brought. But the reality is, it's there, right? So it's you fighting reality. And then all of the pictures you put on top of it, which is mostly what causes the resistance, not the actual moment. And then working through that, the pain body can actually shrink like a tumor. I've seen it. I've seen it shrink in myself. I've seen it shrink in students. It can go from being a beach ball to being like a little oak, you know, uh, all the way down to like a little pea.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it totally dissipates. So it can shrink if you can sit with it, let the pain drain off, have compassion, and be present.
Yeah. The reaction is that we want to get rid of the pain, but really where the healing comes is releasing the resistance because that fuels the pain, the charge in the pain actually. So as we get release the resistance, come into whatever word you want to use, acceptance or surrender or neutrality, then you're not feeding the pain body and you start to release it. You start to kind of flip the switch to healing yourself versus fighting against this other thing. Um, one thing I would just say in light of this topic, because we covered these different topics where we really zoom in on one thing. This does not mean everything is pain, right? Because on the flip side, when we're uh, working with energy, we're meditating, we're connecting with these energies of our true essence. Everything's creativity and expansion and fun and growth. And you're definitely more that. The pain will capture our attention and it will seem like it's the bigger thing, but it isn't. If it was, you wouldn't be functioning at all, right? It is not the bigger thing. It just has a force to it that can take over. The bigger thing is your creativity, your insight, your ability as a being to experience and grow. That's the bigger part of all of us. But what happens is we lose sight of that when the pain body gets activated because suddenly it becomes 100% of the reality, even though in truth it may occupy 5% of the
And
totality of who you are or less.
yeah,
Yep.
this is how we also get through anxiety because no matter what a pain body is made of, if we don't deal with it, it'll cause some form of stress or anxiety because we're not dealing with it. So on the surface, it tends to come out in those forms. Stress could turn to anger. Anxiety can just you can be kind of constantly on pins and needles, always projecting into the future and past. can't be here, can't be here, can't be here in some form. And that's a good indication you've got a triggered pain body. You've got an active pain body. It's coming out into the form of anxiety, and that is creating endless thoughts about the future or about the past. That should be an indication you have a pain body. And that is not normal, the normal state of functioning. A lot of people are in it, so it seems normal, but it's not. And so that's a good moment to sit back and go, okay, anxiety, what pain body are you radiating off of, and to sit still with that. And the last thing I want to mention, and then we should go into meditation soon here.
Yeah.
And we'll do a few questions first, and then meditation. But there are individual pain bodies that we have as people, maybe from childhood and from life, maybe even from past lives. So maybe we have pain bodies that our soul carries. We have pain bodies from this lifetime, big and small. We have family pain bodies, maybe they come down through our genes, or we learn from our parents, grandparents, extended family. We take that pain on and take that pain in, right? um as I've said this so many times, but my grandparents went through the Holocaust, so they have their pain bodies from their life experience, and then the collective pain, as a group, as a tribe, of that experience. And so many cultures, every culture has collective pain bodies. Every single culture has different collective pain bodies. And so the individual carries a certain amount of that collective pain body. Genders also, right? The
Yeah.
women have a collective pain body, and many of them. Men have collective pain bodies as well. So we all there's the personal, and then there's the extended. We might all have a collective human pain body that every single human being, part of the species, carries. We might have a pain body connected to this planet. On and on it goes. Maybe at some
Yeah.
point we'll have a galactic pain body. I don't know. My pain body's as
Yeah.
big as the Milky Way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we certainly as a species have a collective pain body. I mean, we could call that the human condition, right? That some people talk about that in that sense. And our how much those affect us have to do with how much we identify with any of those groups as a person on a personal level, versus having a little space from it. That yeah, I'm a part of this group, but it's not who I am as a person. But the more we identify or create identity connections with it, in the sense of that defining us, who we are, the more we are affected then by the pain body because it comes with that identity. So as you grow, and Eckhart talks about it in the sense of disidentifying, I might talk about it in the sense of knowing your own energy or space separate from it, having your own autonomy. As you grow in that regard, then the pain body of the group, or the whichever level, culture, group, is still there, but your relationship to it changes, so you're less affected by it. But and yet you can still honor that it's there, and that it's part of our evolving and growing, whether it's we think of it as a species or as a spiritual awakening that's rising, is overcoming that. But you can individually overcome it long before the group overcomes it. And that's what psychic freedom is. That's what enlightenment is. That's what awakening is. That's what having your spiritual autonomy is overcoming those energies before the group does, or before whatever external thing does. It doesn't, the
And
world
if
doesn't need to change for you to change, basically.
and if you do that, they'll build statues for you.
Maybe.
like
Or they
like the
might
Buddha,
crucify you.
or they'll crucify you. It depends on the culture.
One or the other. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they'll either put you on a pedestal or stone you.
Yeah. Either
Uh,
way.
if
Either
you
way, you're free. So you're good.
either way. So, a little pain body homework. If you want to know some of the collective pain body that you live in, whatever country you're in, you can just read the newspaper, turn on the news, and you could just start to jot down what collective pain body is there. So we were actually I wanted to share this. I was telling Cody that last night at my home in Boulder, I'm in Spain right now, but a bear tried to break into my house and ripped through the screen window, and it really big claw marks. I mean, tore it open to the point where the dog jumped out the window after it. And long story short, but I was joking. It's a bear market. Oh, Cody made the joke. He said it's a bear market. And so, if like right now at the moment, people are freaking out about the economy in certain parts of the world. And so there's a collective pain body around that, around scarcity, right? There could be, when COVID happened, there was a collective pain body, right? That had to do with physical health. So we have these collective pain bodies that are dormant that become active, right? And so you can easily get triggered by that and get swept up by it, or you can use it as a spiritual practice and work on yourself. And I've always said that like if the Buddha, went out to meditate in his time 2600 years ago and was like, I shouldn't be meditating right now. I should really do some activism, or I should go, do something else, or go save a bunch of money for a rainy day. How much poorer would humanity be? So, as counterintuitive as it seemed, he could have done so many other things as a prince who was going to be a king of a whole region. He had a lot of power and levers to pull. Instead, he went and found his own enlightenment and worked through all of those pain bodies. And then his gift to the world was infinitely bigger. I mean, the impact was incredible. And so it's very easy to be seduced by the collective pain body, that's what you should always be fixing. And if you're on the spiritual journey, you're aware of it, you can work on it, but it's your awareness and your awakening that actually heals that pain body more than anything else. And when I heard Eckhart speak a few weeks ago, he said, like, if you go to a psychologist, psychiatrist, it's great, but the only healing they could do is to the level of their own consciousness and where they've taken it. And the same goes for fixing and healing the world, right? If you are trying to heal a collective pain body from a personal pain body, you're just doing it out of pain. You're probably just going to add to that collective pain, no matter how intelligent you are. So, on an energetic level, you have to heal yourself if you're truly passionate about healing the world. And so there's just so much of that at the moment, and it's a great time to really be aware and meditate on the pain body, on the individual and collective one. I think we need to make this one 2 or 3 hours.
There's a lot that can be said about this for sure. Yes,
We got to go into
definitely
meditation here.
Yeah, we do. We've got to get to the meditation portion.
Well, thanks for sharing your pain. I mean, all your wisdom around pain, Cody.
I love to share my pain.
Man, when I didn't know the bear market was going to attack my house.
That's right. It's a sign.
Luckily, my cat didn't run away because she was probably so scared that she went and hid under the bed.
Good. Yeah.
She had an opening. Holy cow. Oh my gosh. All right. On that note, let's do a meditation. Anything else before we real quick, sorry. I want to honor these questions.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. What if it's not all of your pain, if you're being empathetic or empathic? That could be confusing. Yeah. And Cody brought some of this up, and that's part of the collective pain, right? How much of it is yours? How much of it belongs to a person or the people around you? That's a great question. You can meditate on that.
In terms
Yeah.
of it being confusing, which I can understand, you don't have to identify whether it's yours or not. If you can identify the energy of the pain, you can release it. So in terms of meditating or energy work, we just get into the place to where we can release whatever we find energetically. That oftentimes the insight of whether it was mine or not comes after the fact. Like as I'm releasing it, and it goes away, I may realize, oh, that wasn't even mine. Or I may go a little deeper and go, oh, I know what I see the picture, the image of where I got attached to this. And that was mine. So either way, we're just moving into a place of non-resistance and releasing, whether it's mine or not. And oftentimes, if it's mine, then there'll be a next step. If it's not mine, just the releasing, then it's gone. The next step in terms of my own healing, like once I release the pain body, if it's mine, there'll be some other answer or processing. If it was someone else's, it'll just feel like a relief, and there'll be a subtle like, oh, that wasn't even mine. I was just carrying it.
And, I think you would probably agree with this from our teaching training that the majority of the pain that we carry does not belong to us. Maybe
Vast
the
majority.
vast
Yes.
majority, the vast
Yeah.
majority.
I think part of the journey of awakening to our how psychic, if you want, or intuitive we are, is realizing just how sensitive we are and how much what we're experiencing at any given time is not actually our own energy. It's
Yeah.
fascinating how much that is, how sensitive we truly are. Yeah.
We'll have to do a whole nother episode just on becoming aware of other people's pain bodies and how to deal with that. It's a great topic. Yeah.
Yeah.